All right, there it is. So I had to do a little finagling here. I'm gonna do that there. There we go. I had to do a little bit of finagling here because I'll turn down my volume for a moment. Hopefully you can hear me all right, but I'm going to actually shut up a lot because this is a visual novel. The difference between this visual novel and maybe others that you're more familiar with is really I could just sit back and just watch it. And that's probably what I'm going to do. They added full voice actors, everything like that. It'll be watching a movie. So I've got my popcorn. And you can grab your popcorn too, and we can see exactly what this is all about. Hopefully you guys can hear all right. I'll turn it up just a smidge, just so it's not overwhelming. But we're gonna go ahead and see. All right, so let's start it up. Case number 1, Schrodinger's house.
I told you we should have checked the oil before we left.
Oh, what do I do here?
It's not the oil, it's the radiator, jackass.
Well, if you know so much about cars, then why don't you fix it?
Do I look like a fucking mechanic to you?
Well,
So there is a little bit of
start
profanity.
yours.
I want to apologize about that, but that's why I didn't put this down as family friendly.
You leave my tattoos out of this, or I swear to God, I will shave your dumb shit hipster beard in your sleep.
You wouldn't dare.
Try me.
I absently swung my baseball cap around my face backwards, ignoring my bandmates' bickering as I walked down the crumbling road, holding my phone in air in search of a modicum of cell service. Brian and Savannah had been at it for the better part of 20 minutes while I stared at the screen, at the steaming mess of mechanisms under the hood of the van. It's not an old van, per se, but it isn't a new one either. And it's taken a beating after being dragged all over the country by a quarter of irresponsible 20-somethings. It's true. Oh, before I get too far into this, hi, I'm Corey, and I'm in a pop-punk band called Stop Thief. We're what you might call up and coming, which means we're super broke and basically homeless, and our families question our life choices a lot. But sometimes people say they like our music and it makes us happy. I was in something like that years ago. We were called Identity Crisis, and we certainly had one. Anyway, we were called something else originally, but then this whole thing happened. Ever since, life on the road has been weird, to put it mildly. I finally stopped about 100 feet up the road, taking in the surroundings. There were woods on one side with the large pine trees looming over the cracking pavement and a deep ravine over the other. The fog was settling over the valley, obscuring the mountains in the distance. Very good writing, very good writing. I thought we were somewhere in West Virginia, but I'd been in the middle of a pretty great nap when the van broke down, so I wasn't sure. I didn't see any road signs around to confirm the identity of my suspicion. Google Maps is pretty useless without a cell phone tower nearby. It was then that I realized something was off. There were only 3 of us standing on the side of the road like idiots, not 4.
Hey, guys. Where's Caleb?
Savannah and Brian hit pause on their argument.
I thought he was in the van.
She walked around the van, flinging open the sliding doors and poking her head inside.
shit.
Uh-oh.
Don't tell me he ran off somewhere.
We'll find out. Brian sighed, scratching his beard.
There's probably bears or something in these woods.
Savannah had now climbed into the van and was frantically searching under the seats and behind the suitcases, muttering curses.
We should probably look for him.
Probably.
Hey, Savannah, see if there's any flashlights in there. I think I stashed one or two in that box behind the back seat.
Look at you, thinking ahead.
I began crawling into the van to help Savannah.
Well, someone has to be the adult supervision here.
Brian only grunted in response, thankfully not commenting on the fact that he was, in fact, older than me. But just as I pulled the second of two flashlights out of the cardboard box, buried under Caleb's guitar case, there was a scream and a loud thud of something hitting the van from outside. Savannah and I rushed to find Brian sitting on the ground next to the tire.
Fucking shit, Caleb! Don't sneak up on me like that!
Caleb, who was standing over him with a mildly startled look, started to laugh.
Man, you really jumped high. Were you trying to get over the hood of the van?
Never mind him. Where were you? You can't just run off like that. Who knows what's out there?
Okay, yeah, but I found something cool.
Something cool. It's worth noting that Savannah, despite hating pretty much everyone, especially Brian, has a weird sibling-ish affection for Caleb that she has for no one else. I'm guessing it's because they grew up together, but also I've met kindergartners with a high degree of maturity and impulse control than Caleb, so someone has to watch out for him.
Oh yeah? Where?
In the woods.
Oh no, we're not going in there.
It's a house, though. There might be people there we can ask for help.
Brian, Savannah, and I exchanged looks.
Well, it's worth a shot.
Is it, though?
I sighed and began following Caleb into the forest, clicking on a flashlight. I liked how there's the sound effects on that. Kind of get this radio theater feel to this game.
Just come on.
Well, the only thing that I'm doing is actually clicking this button and just kind of going through the actions of it. So we wandered through the sparse underbrush, something I chalked up about thick tree cover. It was just reaching dusk outside the woods, but inside it might as well have been midnight. I wouldn't have been able to see 5 feet in front of my face without a flashlight. It was also strangely quiet. No animal cries, no insect buzzing, no leaves rustling. Even our footsteps were muffled by a soft greenish-brown moss that coated the ground.
This is eerie as shit. We should go back.
What? Are you scared?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I am. You probably should be too.
We're almost there.
Pretty much as soon as he said that, a structure came into view. It was a log cabin home, 2 stories with a front porch and what looked like remnants of a driveway leading up to it. And there were no lights inside.
Who puts a houseway out here anyway?
Someone who doesn't want to be bothered, probably.
Uh-oh.
Then maybe, I don't know, we shouldn't bother them?
And what? Hitchhike to the nearest town?
I'd rather take my chances with that.
Are you sure there's even someone in there? It looks pretty abandoned.
Yeah, I definitely saw someone moving around through the window.
Oh, man. Before any of us could protest, Caleb had jogged up to the porch and was knocking on the door. And when he got no response, he knocked harder.
Hey, anyone home?
Caleb, stop that. You're gonna get us.
Brian abruptly fell silent when the door swung open with a creak, and we peered inside the dark, empty room beyond.
Guess it was open.
It doesn't look like anyone's home.
Maybe they're upstairs. Come on.
Oh boy, he has no fear, does he? Caleb has no fear. So he waltzed through the door with no hesitation whatsoever.
Caleb! You can't just wander into other people's houses!
The door was open.
He quickly disappeared from sight in the dark house. And the remaining three of us let out a collective groan and then followed him inside.
I really don't think anyone's home.
Savannah ran her fingers through the thick coating of dust on a nearby bookshelf, and the place smelled musty, with notes of old people and roadkill.
Then why is there still so much stuff here? It looks like someone left all of a sudden.
I wandered into the kitchen. This is how all horror movies start, isn't it?
Ugh.
What?
Brian walked up behind me.
Ew.
On the table was something that looked like it had been a bowl of fruit and had since decomposed into a pile of dusty goop. There were a handful of dead flies around it.
What do you think happened to the people that lived here?
I don't know. They just wandered off. Savannah entered the kitchen and began to open the cabinets. She wrinkled her nose as she peered into one below the counter.
Ugh, gross. Dead rat.
She then made a movement as if to smack a fly off her arm, but looked confused when she pulled her hand away and there was nothing there. Must have missed it. She shut the cabinet, then flung it open again, looking inside.
What the?
Ooh,
What?
is it gone?
I thought I heard something.
Oh,
And the rat's gone.
nice.
The dead one?
I mean, I thought it was dead. It was skin and bones and wasn't moving.
Maybe it was napping?
I guess?
I'd be getting the heck out of that house is what
I
I'd
feel
be
like
doing.
this is the part where we find a body. Like, a human one.
Please don't say that.
Hey, I'm just being...
Brian was cut off by a sharp scream and a thud from upstairs, and we exchanged panicked looks before scrambling up the stairs where we'd heard Caleb's yell. We rushed into the bedroom, fists up, and Caleb was sitting on the floor, staring wide-eyed at something.
What is it? What happened?
Oh. Brian suddenly took a step backwards, pointing at something at the end of the bed.
What the hell is that?
Oh,
I think it's a dog.
dog bones.
Or it was.
The pile of bones curled up at the end of the bed was vaguely canine-shaped and still had a bit of dried, dusty skin sticking to it. Ugh. And there was a dark stain on the blanket underneath it, and a faded red collar hung around its skeletal neck.
Do you think it just got left behind?
At this point, Caleb had recovered as well, and was standing back up, wandering closer to the creature.
Well, don't touch it.
But that's kind of sad, isn't it? Little guy must be waiting for his master to come home.
Okay, yes, it's sad. Can we please leave now? Obviously, we're not getting any help from this place.
Yeah. For once, I actually think Brian's right. Let's go.
As Savannah, Brian, and I began to file out of the room, I glanced back at Caleb, who didn't appear to be following.
Caleb, you coming?
Huh? Oh, yeah.
He quickly spun around to face me and began to follow, and I thought I saw him shove something in his pocket. I didn't think anything of it at the time. That was a mistake. We paraded back downstairs and re-entered the living room.
This place is super weird.
Savannah shuffled her feet at a dingy carpet, and it was a little too soft in a squishy, rotted kind of way.
I think weird is an understatement.
Let's just go back to the van.
We began walking towards the door. Suddenly, it slammed shut, blocking our escape.
What the fuck?
Oh no. A strong wind picked up in the room, blowing dust and loose decor everywhere. A strange noise could be heard behind the gale, and it sounded like barking.
What the hell is this?
Savannah yelled over the wind, shielding her face from flying debris.
How should I know? Shit!
And my baseball cap flew off my head and joined the items twirling around the room, and I grabbed at it, but I missed. It's not good to lose your baseball cap. Instead, it flew over to a different direction and hovered above the floor. As the wind died down, something else slowly came into focus where the hat was hovering. It's a dog. It was somewhat transparent, appeared to be a pale bluish color, and had 4 paws, a wiggling tail, and a muzzle wrapped around the bill of the cap.
Is that a dog?
I think it was a dog.
I remained still, wide-eyed gaze fixed on the incorporeal canine.
You did not.
Great.
Just take my hat.
The dog wagged its tail a little harder, and I pointed at the ground.
Drop it. Now.
The dog crouched down with a playful stance.
I mean it, Mutt. Drop the hat.
What, do you talk to a ghost dog like that and you have no idea what's going on? I took a step forward. The dog hopped side to side a bit, wagging its tail so fast it was a little more than a blur. And with a war cry, I launched myself at the dog, who deftly leapt out of the way and took off running with my hat.
Stop, thief!
Stop Thief! That's where they got the name for their band, probably. Now, I know this seems like a bit of an overreaction for a hat, but, well, first of all, it was my favorite hat. It's well worn to the point where there are tears forming around the edges of the bill, which I didn't want exasperated by a ghost dog slobber. Second, the hat is just my thing. I feel naked without it. It is a long story. Don't ask questions. I know exactly how you feel.
Should we stop him?
Brian tried to follow the movement as the dog quite literally flew past him, with me close behind.
I don't really know what to do. There's not exactly a precedent for the situation.
I made a dive for the dog and nearly crashed into a coffee table, and Caleb, meanwhile, was laughing gleefully at the display. I managed to corner the mutt in the kitchen against the cabinets, and I hopped back and forth. It hopped back and forth playfully, wiggling its tail again. Ooh, and went through him. I made a grab for it. The dog jumped right through me. Honestly, I don't know what else I expected. The good news is the hat was, in fact, a physical object that existed in our reality and did not pass through with the dog. Instead, it harmlessly smacked me in the chest before falling to the ground. I snatched it up before the mutt could make it back and ran back into the living room.
All right. Crisis averted. Let's get out of here before I have to process what just happened.
I made a beeline for the door, grabbed the handle, tried to turn it, and I couldn't. I tried jiggling it again and tried to turn the lock, and it wouldn't budge.
Oh, come on!
Oh no. Savannah peered out the window, squinting a bit.
Hey guys, don't look now, but I think someone just came home.
Crap. Completely disregarding her advice, we all gathered around the living room window, where an ancient pickup truck had just appeared in the driveway. Its back fender appeared to have rusted off. There was a large crack in the windshield. The figure was getting out of it, though it was hard to make out any details in the dark.
What do we do? We can't just stay here.
Well, the door's locked, so I don't know where you expect us to go.
Through the window. I said this despite frantically searching for an exit myself. Then there was a sound of a key entering the lock from outside, and we all froze. Ooh. I'm not sure. I would describe the thing that entered the house as human, exactly. Might have been once, but now not so much. It resembled an old man, but sported dirty grayish skin pulling tightly over bones, and was covered in dirt and fungus. His clothes, meanwhile, were rotted to the point that they were just practically fused to the skin. Ugh. Most noticeably, the thing was missing most of its left half of its face. A hole filled with black slime and mushrooms taking its place. The remaining eye socket was dark and empty, and the powerful stench of rot and decay emanated from the creature. None of us moved. None of us even breathed. The presumably undead man shuffled into the house, a hoarse whistle escaping its dried lips. I noticed the ghost dog was still around, albeit cowering under the table with its tail tucked between its legs. The mushroom-covered zombie shuffled toward the kitchen, leaving the door open behind him. I gave Savannah, Brian, and Caleb a meaningful look, indicating the door. They all nodded slightly, and also trying not to make any sudden moves, I put up 3 fingers and began counting down. 3, 2, 1. It did not work. The undead creature suddenly turned with a surprising speed and lunged at the direction with a raspy howl. Oh, there she goes. Savannah, ever the quickest on her feet, smashed a vase over its head, knocking it off balance long enough for the 4 of us to make it out of the door in what we felt one giant leap. We hit the porch and proceeded to crash through the woods, stumbling over tree roots and kicking up clumps of moss along the way. Finally, we erupted back out onto the road, and the van still sitting where we had left it. Savannah panted as she spun around, scanning the trees.
What the actual fuck was that?
I don't know. But mushrooms are now completely off the table as a pizza topping.
I leaned over with my hands on my knees to catch my breath.
Let's just get back in the van.
What? Our van that doesn't go anywhere? What if that thing comes out here?
Do you have a better idea?
I don't know. Start walking?
To where? Do you even know where we are?
Pennsylvania? Probably.
Yeah, I get lost in Pennsylvania a lot. There you go.
Yeah, that inspires confidence.
Guys? Look.
He pointed down the road where 2 pinpricks of light were visible and growing larger.
Oh God. What if it's that rusty pickup? It could be that monster!
As the vehicle got closer, it turned out that it was, in fact, a pickup truck, but a much newer one than the dilapidated jalopy in the woods. And the driver was stocky, bearded 30-something with a wad of chewing tobacco under his lip, and not only stopped, but offered to take a look at the van after Caleb ignored Brian's protests and waving him down. As he poked under the hood, we were informed that we were a few miles outside of Wheeling, West Virginia. Hey, I know that place very, very well. I'm from Pittsburgh, actually, so that's about an hour away from Wheeling. Yeah, about an hour and a half away from Wheeling, so I know it very well. Been there many times, which was admittedly fairly close to the Pennsylvania border.
It ain't your radiator. It's this belt came loose.
Now, a person that's from that area wouldn't sound so much like that as they would sound like, "Yins guys, it's not your radiator. Your belt came loose." The man pointed at the innards of the van, as if any of us knew what we were looking at.
Let me get some tools out of my truck. I'll get you fixed up.
As we breathed a collective sigh of relief and agreed to stop in town and blow what little money we had on a couple of hotel rooms for the night, the man chatted idly as he worked on the van.
It's probably best you don't hang around these parts anyway. There's a legend about this mountain. Says that this forest don't like things living in it, especially people. And anyone that tries, well, they wind up cursed, existing in a state between life and death.
Yeah, Wheeling will do that to you. He paused, scratched his beard with a greasy hand.
That's the wives' tale. Anyways, try not to lollygag around here myself.
The man was true to his word and had the van up and running in about half an hour. Brian almost cried, I think. He let us follow him into the city. And I almost cried when the phone started picking up service again. Finally, we pulled into a cheap motel, which, believe it or not, is better than sleeping in the van. And I, for one, was exhausted. That was when we heard a soft woof from the back of the van. Savannah, Brian, and I turned around in our seats to face Caleb, who appeared to be trying to hide something behind him.
Caleb, what do you have?
Nothing. Oh, what would make you think there was anything hiding behind my back right now?
Caleb, do not make me come back there.
No, really, it's nothing. Completely insubstantial, I assure you.
Before I could respond, the thing behind Caleb's back revealed itself by passing right through his chest and jumping up onto the floor next to Brian. There he is. It's the dog. It's the ghost dog. Looked at Savannah and I and let out a short bark, wagging its tail. My reaction was slow. One moment I was staring dumbfounded at the dog, and the next I was shouting incoherently, pointing at his general direction with frantically waving my other arm.
Why? How? What the fuck is that thing doing here?
Well, I think it's probably because I took this.
Oh, what did he take? The collar. Caleb held up the faded red collar.
It must have been what was keeping him trapped at the house.
Caleb! Why would you take that with you?
I don't know. I just do things sometimes. You know that.
That doesn't mean you can just steal things from haunted houses! Or any houses!
Okay, well, unless you want to take it back.
Oh, fuck no. We're not going back there.
Then I can keep him?
Hey, Paradigm. How you doing, man? We're,
Keep... what?
watching a movie. Well, sort of. Interactive movie. But there's no choices. There's no choices. It just runs right through. It's the whole story.
No, absolutely not. We're not keeping a ghost dog.
They're a band. They got trapped on the side of the road. They went looking around, went to a house, found a ghost dog and a zombie. They escaped the zombie, came back up their van. Their van got fixed by a guy driving down the road. They're in Wheeling, West Virginia, by the way, which I know very, very well. Yeah, I can understand the idea of ghost dogs in Wheeling. And now they're back on the road, and he stashed the ghost dog in the car. One guy did.
But where else is he going to go?
He gestured towards the dog, who had ghostly blue tongue rolling out of one side of its mouth.
I don't know. Drop him off at the animal shelter or something? Savannah, will you please talk some sense into him?
Savannah, meanwhile, was rubbing her chin, giving the dog a strange look.
Well, it's not like we have to feed it or anything.
Yes, perfect pet.
Or let it out. I mean, it is dead.
There you go. Undead dog. Caleb's face lit up, while mine sunk.
Brian, what about... Brian?
Brian was passed out in the seat next to the dog. Turns out he fainted as soon as he saw it. I pointed at our unconscious bassist.
I feel like that counts as a no from him.
His opinion doesn't matter even when he's awake. Just let him keep the stupid dog.
I'll take good care of him.
Caleb, do you remember that caterpillar you picked up and wanted to keep as a pet on the last tour?
Sort of.
Do you remember what happened to it?
It turned into a butterfly?
No. You accidentally sat on it.
Oh, that caterpillar.
Yes, the one that's dead now. And also the reason you shouldn't have pets.
But he's already dead. I can't make it worse.
The dog yawned and laid down on the floor of the van.
I'm sure there's a way.
Yeah.
Oh, knock it off. We're keeping the dog for now.
Savannah finally shut the van on and moved to get out.
Let's get some sleep already. I'm beat.
What? Why do you get to decide?
Because I have all our money and the keys to the van. So you don't have a lot of leverage.
So she slid out of the driver's seat and into the parking lot, and I opened my mouth to retort and then shut it again, climbing out of the van and followed her to check in the desk. The following evening, we sat inside a tiny green room in a tiny venue in some town I can't remember the name of. Tiny town near Wheeling, probably Lover, or maybe California, or maybe Belle Vernon, or... And there I stared at the dead dog in the corner with mild agitation. And the thing vanished every time someone other than the four of us entered the room, so at least we hadn't had to explain it to everyone else. The adrenaline from the night before had worn off, and I had slept a little too well, and so I was fighting the weird drowsiness that followed that, and didn't have it in me to stay mad.
So what do we call it?
Huh?
Spooky.
The dog. What's its name?
Fred.
Oh. Well, the tag on the collar is so worn that I can't read it.
Ooh, do I get to
But-
name him?
I was thinking of calling him Thief.
Oh no, I don't get to name him.
Thief? Why thief?
He pointed at my hat.
Well, technically you came up with that.
I glanced upward and pulled the hat further down on my head.
Well,
Oops.
technically you came up with
I can go back.
Yeah. Okay. That's good.
And just then, I was struck with a flash of brilliance.
Hey,
Drink
Savannah.
some.
You know how we were thinking of changing the band name because we found out that Bottleneck is also the name of that weird country rap group?
Pardon me.
Yeah? Why?
I think I have a new one.
Stop thief. She raised an eyebrow.
Go on.
Don't I get any input on this?
No, Brian.
No. What is it, Corey?
I grinned and told her. She considered it for a moment, then nodded.
Okay. Let's try it out.
Stop thief. And I was smiling ear to ear as I jogged out on stage, waving to the crowd before launching into the first song in our set. Oh, do they actually have, like, music for this? After finishing, I put up a foot on the monitor and looked over the crowd occupying the small venue.
Now, I know you guys might have seen a band called Bottleneck on the bill tonight. But let's be honest, most of you haven't heard of us anyway, because you're all here to see the headliners. Am I right?
Slight hesitant, confused cheer came over the crowd, and then I saw some shrugs at first view.
Okay. That being the case, we're just going to go ahead and change the name.
Yes. Stick took a step back. Adjust my hat. Stop thief.
We are Stop Thief, and we're here to start this party.
So, that's how we got our new name, I guess. Thief has been tagging along with us. I'll take it down just a smidgers. Thief has been tagging along with us for a few weeks now, since Caleb won't let go of the damn collar, and I guess it's not so bad. He's not too hard to take care of, seeing as he doesn't eat or anything, and as long as you keep him entertained, he usually won't destroy anything. He did get a hold of Brian's favorite boxers one day, though, and well, let's just say that Brian doesn't have a favorite pair of boxers anymore. Ever since the incident with the abandoned house, though, we seem to have developed a habit of getting involved in some pretty strange stuff. Like there was this thing living in the basement in that venue in Chicago, and I really don't know how to describe it. It had like tentacles or spider legs. It might have been closer to spider legs. Anyway, there was also this band we opened for in Boise that, like, I mean, I'm not saying they were vampires, but they were definitely vampires, and they refused to come out of their bus until after dark, and I saw one knock back a bottle of this weird red stuff before going on stage, and I could have been ketchup, but honestly, that would have been even weirder. And their singer, I mean, aside from the fact that he had fangs, he was just, I don't know, this is a weird dude. And there was also that truly bizarre crap that with a payphone in the green room in Phoenix, and I'm still processing that one. Did you know they still have payphones? Neither did the venue owner. Caleb almost got talked into joining a cult in Alabama, but we managed to bail him out before he got turned into a ritual sacrifice for some deity. Oh, and I'm like 90% sure that the promoter in New Orleans was a werewolf. Or maybe I'm just paranoid about the hairy guys now, or maybe I'm just mad because we didn't get paid what we thought we were. And frankly, those aren't even the wildest stories. We're in between tours now and everyone's home, which is why I have some free time to write all this down. And we're going back out soon because none of us want to get real jobs. And honestly, I'm getting really bad feeling about that our misadventures are far from over. The end. All right, very good. The beginning of Scooby-Doo, detective agency. You know, actually, it was very good. It was very good. Let's see. I know a few of these voices, by the way. And the reason I say that is because I also do voiceovers, so I see them floating around on Twitter. All right. Made by Rinpai. All right, so quick review. As I have said before, I am not incredibly familiar with visual novels. This is not a genre that I have really partaken in very much. Okay? So, some of the good points. First off, it was engaging. I mean, you had the visuals were there, the comic book style, all of that. It actually looked really, really good. The voice acting was pretty solid. That was one thing that I was listening for. I was listening for any cracks, pops, anything like that, and the people did a pretty good job. You know, one thing that I always look for in voice acting is if you get a sense that they're actually there. Okay, and that was one thing that I think was kind of lacking in that, you know, this is a ghost dog that's supernatural. The first time that you've actually seen anything supernatural, and there's a zombie and all that, and like when they're like yelling and cursing and stuff, yeah, that makes more sense on how you would actually respond to it than chasing down a ghost dog trying to get the hat. You know, there was just kind of, and I know that you had to kind of move it along so it didn't take too long because this was for a game jam. But it just seems like the reactions of the characters as how you would react to something supernatural occurring. And unfortunately, there's not a really good basis for that either. Like, how many times have you encountered something supernatural? How would you react? You know, everything like that. The writing was very, very good. The way that all of it kind of gave you extra pictures in your mind beyond what was actually being shown on screen. And I really did enjoy that part of it, because when I was watching this and you were writing down the emotions that were going through Corey's mind and everything like that, it was very, very good. because it kind of puts you even further into the shoes of the main character, who is Corey. The art is just fantastic. It's cute. It's funny. The humor on it, I mean, there were some hits and misses, I think. They were trying to do things with humor, but it just didn't really hit as hard as it probably could. And that just takes time and development and learning, you know, what's funny and what's not when it comes to certain things. And so I think that if you are planning on doing the misadventures of Stop Thief and continuing to do this and creating this like supernatural-esque kind of thing where they're a rock band that keeps running into crazy crap, it will take development, and character development, I think, is another big part of this, because we now know of the 4 characters: Corey, Brian, Savannah, and escapes me, the kid that kept getting into trouble. And so we have those 4, and then we also have the ghost dog. We have the ghost dog, and that he could also have a story binding him, you know. This is a beginning, I believe, of something that could be really, really good, and kind of Play Dead and the Adventures of Stop Thief, or however you want to do it. So, you know, there's a market for people who really enjoy this type of stuff. Like I said, I'm not a person that gets into a lot of it. I'm almost 38 years old, and I would prefer to sit down and read a book than watch it in front of me. And so this is actually a really good approach that you guys have taken. And I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes.